All right, what's up, everybody? 1 2 1 2, and a place to be. We are live right here. Another edition of the In the Dungeon show. I am Frank Red, and thank you for joining me in conversation. We're getting closer and closer to the start of the NFL season. Most sports fans, myself included, can't wait till the season starts. The NFL literally is like, it's the only season that we convince ourselves that preseason actually matters, just so we can have something to talk about. Other sports are not like that. Baseball, who cares unless you're a diehard baseball fan. Even the NBA. Everybody needs a breath. You need to take a breath coming off the summer. You know who the rookies are. You know who the free agents are. Your rosters are generally set. Nobody really cares about the preseason. It's kind of a money grab, to be quite honest with you. But the NFL, they're listening to the fans to a certain extent. They've cut the preseason games down to, 2 now? Maybe 3? We can't wait that there's none. And we can just start the season, September 1st, as opposed to waiting a week. But needless to say, everybody's excited about the NFL. On this show, we actually cover the 49ers. Tangentially, we cover the Raiders, but we cover the whole NFL. I grew up in New York as a Washington fan, and when I started to understand what was going on, I was also a New York Giants fan and a New York Jets fan. The Jets were about 20 minutes from my house. Their players used to get their hair cut at my barber. So I got kind of close to them. But in general, I love football. I do. I played college football. I played college basketball. So I think the only reason why I love basketball more is because I played it first. But had I played football first, who knows? I might have fell in love with that game first, and that would be my sport. But basketball is it for me, but I love football. Love it. The best sport to watch on television. Even listening to football on the radio is entertaining, going from here to there. So if you feel like I do, maybe you got something you want to talk about tonight. My name is Frank Red. This is the In the Dungeon show. If you're listening for the first time, I appreciate you. Thank you for giving us a chance to enthrall you over the next hour and a half. You get to the point when you like the show, hit the like button. It definitely helps me out. Subscribe to the show. Our subscribe numbers are not growing at the rate that they should, but that's my fault. I'm still in the process of trying to get on some other platforms besides YouTube. But saying that, I definitely want to thank the people who tune in every week, who engage with myself and other listeners, and make the show fun, because that's what it is. It is a diversion from our normal lives. So once again, hit the like button, subscribe to the show. My name is Frank Red, and we'll get started. Some of the things that we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to talk NFL. Ricky Pearsall is off the PUP list, so all of the 49 fans who were stressed out because he wasn't on the field, coming off of what transpired last year. He's off the list, so theoretically he'll be back on the field tomorrow, if not in the near future. So we want to talk some football. We can do that. The story that won't go away is the Golden State Warriors and Jonathan Kuminga. And this kind of hits me hard. I've been thinking about this all weekend because everything points to this is not good. All right, you try to, and you open your blinds and you try to see, some spots of sun trying to bust their way through all of these clouds, and I don't see any sunshine with Jonathan Kuminga and the Golden State Warriors. I don't, and it's pretty sad because I think that there are other variables besides basketball that have gotten in the way. Ego, never discount or never minimize the power of the ego. on both sides, the Golden State Warriors and Jonathan Kuminga's camp. And it's unfortunate because one of the things that we know this week, Ozzy Osbourne dying, Hulk Hogan dying, maybe a loved one that you know of passed. We don't get time back. We don't. And you don't get careers back. It's interesting listening to Carmelo Anthony's, 7 p.m. in Brooklyn, his podcast. Melo is kind of like the voice of reason on that show. You know, he's a sage, Hall of Fame athlete who can now spew wisdom to younger players and the listeners at large. But go back to when Melo was getting in the ring, fighting seemingly every practice with George Karl in Denver. That could have went a lot differently, but it didn't. And a lot of it was just ego. George Karl is a do-it-my-way type of guy, blustery, North Carolina grad. And Melo was, hey, I'm Melo. I'm one of the best players to ever play in this game. And maybe I want to do things my way. Had there been better communication, they might have won a championship. Because they certainly had a good enough team. They did. So when I look at the Golden State Warriors and Jonathan Kuminga, it's not sad, but it's disappointing because I don't see any winners, right? I don't have any knowledge, but it seems like Jonathan Kuminga's like, listen, if you're not going to give me the contract and I have to take this last year of my contract, why would I help you by signing now so you guys can conduct your business? It has to be the reason why the Warriors have not been able to go out and make some other moves that we all know about. Potentially Al Horford coming to the Warriors, DeAnthony Milton. Maybe there's another move or two out there that they want to make, but they can't until this Kuminga thing is taken care of. To me, this is a Steve Kerr and Jonathan Kuminga thing. I don't think this is about Joe Lacob. I don't think this is about Mike Dunleavy Jr. I don't. I think if they paid him the money that he's asking for, then the power dynamic would be changed. And I think that's what it's about. Because when you're going to pay a player $30 million, right? And you decide that he's not going to fit in your 8-man rotation, and your owner is sitting at half court, in a nice seat on the floor. Oh, he's not going to be happy at that point. So that power dynamic, I think, is kind of at play. Kuminga, I think emotionally, he's just done. I think he wants to get out of here. It's interesting watching Brandon Podzinski show up to all of the Valkaries games, wearing jerseys, cheering. He knows how to work the system. He's probably going to get signed next year. Has anybody seen Jonathan Kuminga? I haven't seen him. Hasn't been anywhere. So, the other part of this is, I think that some other coaches could have gotten more out of Jonathan Kuminga. I believe that wholeheartedly because Jonathan Kuminga, to me, he's 22. He's 22 coming to a new country, right? Has probably been told that he's the guy when he could be the guy, but he's not quite there yet. He didn't go to college. Imagine if this guy had went to a really good American college program where he was starting from the bottom like everybody else. With those skills, the narrative that he can't play is absurd. That's crazy. So, I'm frustrated by it, but I understand it. It kind of makes me think a little bit about my own career, my high school career and my college career. I played for legends, but I played for coaches that were my way or the highway type of coaches. And, you know, product of a teenage mother growing up in the hood, I was very sensitive about how people talk to me. I was a great kid, but I was very sensitive about how people talk to me. And I could identify how a coach handled one player versus another player. You know, I had to understand that it's not a fair system. Coaches are not going to coach you all the same. They're not going to explain things the way that you want to have them explained to you. They're just not going to do it. They have the media on their side. They are lionized as being town heroes, when that may or may not be the case. So I got a lot of thoughts about this. I'm going to tell you a story that blew me away one time. I'm not going to name any names, but I remember there was a coach there was a head coach at the D1 level that my college played against, right? And I respected this guy. This guy was a big time coach, D1 coach. I graduated from school, from Fordham, and got a really good job, a real excellent opportunity because of the alumni helped me out, and I was a salesman. It was a very good job. And I remember I was on a sales trip one time, and I was in a hotel room, and we went downstairs to get something to eat. And the coach, who I had the utmost respect for, I saw this guy just drunk out of his mind at the bar downstairs. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. And that was one of those aha moments for me, just to say, you know what? Nobody's perfect. Everybody's not what you think they are. And this hierarchy stuff between coach and player, I think it's what we think it is, but it's not always like that. I think the level of communication between coaches and players are essential for success. I'll give you a perfect example. OKC. I didn't know OKC was going to win a championship this year. I think the Warriors might have been able to, to beat them. Maybe you might say, yo, Red, you drunk. But that team had some moments in which they had to get over the hump, get over the hill. And they did it. And they ultimately realized that it was their moment. But their coach has always been in the background. He hasn't been out front. That was not by mistake. I think his style, Dayball, I think his presence and his essence is like, you know what? I'm driving the car. These guys know where we're going. I'm getting my direction from them, and wherever they want to go, that's where we're going to go. And they wanted to go to the finish line, and they won a championship. So I'm not absolving Jonathan Kuminga at all. He has to grow up. He has to understand that this is big time basketball and this is a business. But I don't think he's in a situation where he can win. Last week we talked about on this program how the Warriors allegedly had offered him a 5-year deal for $150 million. I was like, where? I didn't see that. And then somebody found some article and quoted somebody who I don't know, who said that they had offered him $150 million. Any agent who doesn't take $150 million on the table from a player should be fired. Fired. Especially because you know the market. If you're a good agent, you know who has money and who doesn't have money. So I would say, I don't believe that. And this week in a podcast between Monty Poole and Bonta Hill was Bonte. I don't know Bonte's last name, but those two guys had a podcast, and basically they said it didn't happen. I trust those guys. Those are insiders. Because if you are Jonathan Kuminga and it gets out that you turned down a 5-year, $150 million deal, you're not looking too good. When no one in the league has money, you're looking like a fool. The other thing is, this just in, professional teams can lean on the media. They always have people in the media to put narratives out there. That's how it is. That's how it is. You know? So, as fans, as people who care about this stuff, you have to look a little deeper than the general conversations that are being had. The Sacramento stuff with Jonathan Kuminga, he's not going to Sacramento. I don't believe that. I don't think the Kings are offering Keegan Murray either. But you never really want to trade a player in your backyard. You don't want to do that. The Chicago thing, I think, could be real. I think Chicago has genuine interest in Jonathan Kuminga. I think that he would go to Chicago and be a star. From day one, a star. The Chicago Bulls had the 4th best offense in the NBA last year. They didn't play a whole lot of defense. But offensively, they got it in. The Warriors don't want to do it. Can't blame them. But if you look at Kobe White and Jonathan Kuminga, they were basically drafted in the same position. Different years, same slot. So, I'm just like, I've seen players get ruined. And I was thinking to myself this afternoon, I was like, has Jonathan Kuminga badmouthed the Warriors? Not to my knowledge. Does he not practice? We're not at practice. We don't know. The only thing that we hear is that he's not a great fit. He doesn't play well with this player or that player. Well, then change the offense. Modify the offense. If he's really a good player, if he's really valuable, then modify it. I'm not saying change it all, but you can't get your best player, one of your best players on the floor. Or if you are convinced that he's not going to work here and be a good citizen and be happy, then why is he still here? Trade the guy. Trade him. So, I don't think that anybody is a horrible entity here. It feels like a bad marriage to me. At some point, you got to go your separate ways if you want to be happy. Because, the idea that Kuminga comes back and play on the last year of his contract, you believe in the tooth fairy. If you think he's going to come in and have the best year of his life, I don't believe it. Because there's no trust there. There's no trust. It's what Michael Parsons is going through now as a Dallas Cowboy. Clearly one of the top 5 defensive players in the NFL. What else does he have to prove? If Jerry Jones doesn't want Michael Parsons, then trade him. But we know we know Jerry's going to sign him. He just wants to play this thing out and feel good and exert his power. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. I can't wait till football starts. I gotta get my mind off of this stuff because it's like, listen, most people who do this for a living, they're on vacation now. They're like, let some rookie talk about, oh well, yeah, you know, the preseason is great. The third string offensive lineman really looks good. I mean, come on. We are a couple of weeks away from the best time of our sports lives in the year. We are a couple of weeks away from the period of the sports calendar that makes us all happy. U.S. Open, you know, baseball, the pennant races are starting. NFL is starting. WNBA. I'm actually more excited now about hip hop than I am sports right now. Hip hop is crushing it. I'm going to talk about that tonight as well. And what has happened is what I had hoped would happen. Finally, people who love hip hop, who've been in the game for a minute, would say to themselves, you know what? I'm not going to let the industry control what I do. I'm just going to go out and make records. Some of the best music that's being made now are from rappers who have been in the business for 20 plus years. It should have happened 10 years ago. I'm so happy right now. TG says, Big Frank, let's go. What's up, my brother? How are you? Young West, do you think Rashawn Holmes would be a good pickup for the Warriors for a vet minimum? He's available. No, I don't. Doesn't have a very high basketball IQ. Plays hard. The Warriors system is very complicated. And, you know, I think Rashawn Holmes, I want to get his name right because his mom actually got mad one time. Rashawn Holmes. Oh yeah, Rashawn Holmes. His mother was quoted one time about a commentator mispronouncing her son's name. So I don't want to do that. Rashawn Holmes, former Sacramento Kings player. I think he still might have, you know, some gas in the tank. He's made some money. He's been paid. But the Warriors are a different team. When you look at the Warriors starting five, a lot of people might not be all that excited. They might go, well, the teams that got more talent. Yeah, they do. But the Warriors system is more complicated than most of the other teams. And they play a style of basketball that you have to know how to play. You know, you can't be sufficient in one area. It doesn't work. You know, it does not work. I'm going to say this right now. Shadal, I'm not going to have his comments in there tonight. He got to take a week off. He really upset me a little bit last week, and I generally don't get upset pretty much with anything. But he bothered me, and we're not going to have him tonight. All right. Keys, what's up? What's up, Frank? I'm enjoying Frank Red music on YouTube. Keep spitting lyrics. People can relate. Yeah, you know, man. Yo, Keys, I'm going to tell you something that's crazy. That song, I Get Down, the song Frank Red Music, I didn't know that I had forgot that I had recorded that song. You know, it was weird because that was one of those tracks that, like, I don't even know who put that up, but I forgot that I did that song. And, yo, that was one of my best lyrical performances. I listened to it, I was like, yo, that's pretty dope. You know, so thank you for checking it out. I was able to merge my two channels, Frank Red and Frank Red Music. So those two channels are together now. And I'm dropping 2 more songs probably within a month. I can't wait. These songs are dope. I mean, I'm a high level artist. I mean, yeah, I get down as dope. But yeah, it's interesting too because as an artist, it's hard being an artist, just like it's hard being a pro. And the reason why it's so hard is because there's so many people who have been excellent at this before. So you grow up, excuse me, I'm sweating. You grow up being a fan, right? And then, when you first start out doing something, you're generally not very good at it. But over time, you do become good if you keep working at it. And when it comes to hip hop and making songs and finding my voice and really understanding how to do this, at some point I became pretty good. And then I became real good. And I became confident to the extent that I knew that what someone else was doing artistically had no bearing on what I was doing. I was my own artist. I was an artist. And you go actually, and I think about it sometimes, and I say it to myself, when I first started rapping and writing songs, I was basically a poser. I wanted everything that hip hop offered, but I wasn't giving it anything. And then you start living a life, you start growing up, you start having life experiences, and all of a sudden the light comes on. And if you stick with it, you become an artist. I love hip hop. I love it. Love it. The fact that Nas and Slick Rick and Clips are coming out with music now. Raekwon's album is out, killing it. I love it, man. Rock Marciano actually grew up on my block out in Long Island. Frantic Rage. So Frank, do you think Kuminga plays here this year, or are they getting someone for him? I think he's going to be on the roster when the season starts. That's what I think. To what extent he plays, I think a lot of that depends upon him, because he's a good player. If he goes into camp, he shows some maturity. I think there'll be some opportunities for him to get on the court. Do I think this is going to be a place that he's going to be long-term? No, I don't. I don't think so. But the Warriors ownership is not going to allow management to give him away. It's not going to happen. He's too good. He's too good for that. So this is a delicate situation because I don't think they're going to write the check that he wants. They don't have to. They have no competition. The Warriors have no competition, And other guys are in the same situation. I mean, the kid, Quentin Grimes, he's not in the same, arena as a Kuminga, but he wants a check. Thomas, the kid Thomas on the Brooklyn Nets, they're lowballing him. And the Australian kid who plays for Chicago, Giddy had a phenomenal year last year. Apparently the Bulls don't want to pay him. I think that has a chance of maybe getting done, especially now that Billy Donovan has signed an extension, so he's going to be there. And I haven't talked to Billy about it, but I haven't, I don't talk basketball with Billy. But based on what transpired, you would think that he likes coaching Giddy. Giddy had a phenomenal year. Kind of resurrected his career to the point now where he's asking for, supposedly a contract, $25, $30 million a year. So it's going to be interesting. There was a lot of conversations last week, and I touched on it a little bit. I didn't talk a lot about it because it's kind of ridiculous to me. And Cam Newton was talking about it. Now, Jalen Hurts, not a top 10 quarterback? Come on, man. Really? Really? Is he a top 10 winner? That's what I care about. Do you win? Stats don't mean anything. They mean absolutely nothing. You know, if you look at the NFC right now, you're looking at the Philadelphia Eagles as one of what? One of 5 teams or one of 3 teams that have a legitimate shot to get to the Super Bowl again. He makes plays. That's all I care about. Do you make plays? You know, the same thing with Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's not going to win any look contests. You know, who looks the best playing quarterback. 49ers don't care about that. They want him to win games. I think he can win games. So it was a ridiculous comment by Cam to me. He has the right to have his opinion. But Cam was quoting stuff in the regular season. I'm like, Cam, nobody cares about the regular season. The only thing people care about is, do you play well in the biggest moments? And as great as Cam was, if Cam Newton finishes the job in the Super Bowl, he's a Hall of Famer. He's not a Hall of Famer now. He's not getting any Hall of Fame. He knows that. It sucks that it generally comes down to one play, because Cam, in his Carolina Panther days, was an absolute beast. Kind of sputtered a little bit in New England. But if he falls on that fumble and they recover the ball and they win the Super Bowl, Cam Newton is a Hall of Famer. Jalen Hurts, all he needs to do is make the playoffs 5 or 6 more times. He's in the Hall of Fame. Keith says, Keegan Murray and Malik Monk for Kuminga seems the best Warriors can get at this point. Do you agree? If I'm Sacramento, I'm not giving both of them up. I mean, and from the Warriors' perspective, everything about Malik Monk's game says that he's not a good fit for the Warriors. He's not a good shooter. He doesn't have good shot selection. He plays extremely hard. You know, I'm sure he's a good teammate. But the way that he sees the game is not a good fit for the Warriors. You know, he probably thinks he's on par with Steph Curry. And he's not on par with Stephen Curry. You know, I mean, you come to the Warriors, mentally, you have to acquiesce a little bit to Stephen Curry. You know, because the system is made for him. Keegan Murray, I think, you know, the Warriors look at him and say, wow, I can really build something with this young man. He has a lot of talent. But he leveled off last year. You know, he doesn't play like a dog. He does not. And I don't know why, because he has a lot of talent, good shooter, you know. So I think that Keegan Murray for Jonathan Kuminga makes sense. If Sack is trying to get rid of Monk to include that, no, I don't see that happening. He's not a good fit for the Warriors. Yeah, Ben Simmons is available. I keep reading comments about Ben Simmons saying that you know, he's going to choose among his options this week or next week. I'm like, dude, you don't have a lot of options. You don't have a lot of options. You know, I don't care how well Ben Simmons plays. From this point on to when his career is over, he's never going to get crazy money. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. And basically, it's his own fault. I'm not going to talk about him being hurt because I would never, ever challenge how somebody feels about their body. I'm not going to do that. But the way that he comported himself, he's never going to get paid again. Never. Never. And it's just, this is a game, man. Now, I'm also very sensitive to players that don't win in college. He had a losing record in college. You know, which is why when I look at Ace Bailey and I look at Dylan Harper, the Dylan Harper, I'm willing to give him a pass. I got to give him a pass. Everything that I've heard from this kid, watching him, I think he's going to be fantastic. Ace Bailey has all the talent in the world. Whether or not he's going to be everything that people think he will become, I don't know that. I wouldn't bet my mortgage on it. Would not. As young as he is, Keith says Simmons two-way contract only. Oh man. Yo, read this, dude. Shut down. Go away. You are a troll. You did the same thing to Cyrus 3 nights ago. Yeah. Bye. Bye. Wembanyama, Castle, and Harper. That sounds nice. You know, Keys is, you know, man, listen. I'm going to say this, man. I love the experiences that I had playing basketball for my coaches. Because my coaches were not always right. But they taught me a lot, man, about life. You know, a lot of kids, when they, you know, go from high school to college at the D1 level, it's a big transition in terms of playing. It wasn't a big transition for me. I was ready to play. And the hard coaching that I got prepared me for life. It wasn't easy. I'm not saying it was easy. I'm not saying I was the best practice player. I got to the point where I was pretty good. I was really good. But I like to talk, I like to be talked to in a certain way, the same way I talk to people. And coaches don't always do that. But once I matured and I became an adult, I understood the world. And it's not fair. The world is about handling your business and reading the room. And I think my coaches would be proud of me now. You know, all of them. You know, I still talk to my college coach. My high school coach, unfortunately, passed a long time ago. But he taught me a lot about life. I really appreciate that. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox had everything in Sacramento. Small market. He had one pro team. The media is not going to kill him. They didn't kill him. I know who the guys are up there. I mean, he was in the perfect situation. And he had a coach that maybe coached him kind of hard in Mike Brown because he wanted to win. But he wanted to be traded. And he went to San Antonio. It's all good until it's not. Dylan Harper is going to be the point guard of that team. That's just facts. Doesn't mean that De'Aaron Fox won't have a place in the NBA. No, he's a starting NBA point guard. He'll go somewhere else, but it's probably not going to be in Sacramento. I mean, San Antonio. Sometimes the best place that you are at is the best place. So, Yeah, man. I also this weekend, I have not followed the A's at all for obvious reasons. But I really feel bad for A's fans who can't give it up. And I mean, for the Sacramento fans who are diehard Oakland A's fans, I get it. There's nothing wrong with going out supporting the team. You've been supporting the A's since they were in Oakland. I get it. But the A's basically using Sacramento as a rest stop on a camping trip. You know, you go in, you take a shower, get a meal, you know, and then you leave. They don't even have the decency to call them the Sacramento A's. Oh, no. Don't put Sacramento on there. You know how sad it is? I'm looking at some stats, and they just have the A's there. They don't even have a city attached to them. Moving to Las Vegas is going to be a loser for them. It's going to be a loser. Am I praying for it? No, I'm not. And if I'm wrong, I'll say, I was wrong. They love baseball in Las Vegas. I don't believe it. But damn, the A's got some good young players. Nick Kurtz. I'm thinking, do you know how big this guy would be in Oakland? Has Giambi's number? Wow. There have been some years in which I've gone to 20 baseball games. I would love to go out and watch that young man play. Their center fielder who brings back everything. I can really get behind this team if they were the Oakland A's. I mean, do you know how long it takes to build a fan base? It takes really 20 to 30 years. Now, I know Las Vegas is at minor league baseball. I know that. But it takes 20 to 30 years to build a real fan base. Not that the A's owner cares about that. You know, he will have sold the team many years before they develop into a fan base, if they ultimately do. He don't care. Bash Brothers 2, Kurtz and Rooker. Yeah, man. Yes. Steve-O says, a week of banishment. Yeah, so I'm just thinking about that, man. I mean, you know, and here's the interesting thing about the A's versus the Giants. And I'm kind of in a pickle with the Giants, right? Because when I covered the Giants, every time that I went to cover the Giants, their organization treats the media like their family. I'm talking, I was like, man, you know what? I should be paying for this. That's how nice the people are with the San Francisco Giants. A great organization in terms of business. They know how to run a business. But they draft the same players. You know that the Giants are going to develop pitchers. They always develop pitchers. It doesn't matter who the manager is, who the general manager is. The Giants historically have developed pitchers, and they're still developing pitchers. They don't draft hitters, though. Why not? Even Rafael Devers. Okay, Rafael Devers is still the same player who was playing in Boston. I believe that. Now, he doesn't have a short porch, to hit home runs into. You mean I gotta hit? I mean, he's like, you mean I gotta hit the ball over that big wall out there in right field in Pac-Bell Park? Yeah, you do. It's different. He's still the same player. Rafael's gonna be fine, but can you imagine the pressure that he feels? He's clearly feeling pressure because they don't have a lot of horses in that lineup. They don't. Like I said, I watched Rafael Devers' third at bat. He ultimately grounded out, but the guy, I mean, he had a nub to the pitcher or whatever, but the dude went like 10, 11, 12 pitches deep. A hell of a at bat that did not result in a hit. That's okay. Why don't the Giants develop hitters? I don't understand it. I do not understand that for nothing in the world. I don't. I don't know. I have no idea. I want to touch on the Valkaries because they've had some bad luck, right? Kayla Thornton, their best player, all-star, 15 points in the all-star game. She came back, and we all assumed in the second half of the year she was going to be outstanding. Mysteriously gets hurt in practice. We don't really know what happened, but she's hurt. She's done for the year. And, you know, the Valkaries were, and I think they still are, the best story in the WNBA this year. And Coach Nakase has been, phenomenal. She's a great coach. But without Kayla Thornton in the lineup, they look a lot different. They don't have any playmakers. They got players who can play off playmakers. And Kayla Thornton was the only playmaker they had on the team. Tiffany Hayes a little bit, but she's kind of erratic. She's good, don't get me wrong, she's good, but she's not a fundamentally sound offensive player. She just gets it done. Whirling, twirly, hooks, drives, she can shoot, good player. But Kayla Thornton was an all-star for a reason. Because you could put the best player on Kayla Thornton and it didn't matter sometimes. She was still going to score. And she was one of the better defensive players. So, I don't know right now. I think the Valkaries might have shot their shot. And I didn't realize that they had so many road games also. They have a lot of road games. And they're playing a team on Tuesday night, the Atlanta Dream, that I think can go far. I mean, they're really, really good. So, I just want to put that out there because the crowds have been phenomenal. They're still a great story, but maybe it's time to reassess the expectations of what this team is playing for now, because they certainly don't have the horses to compete against the really good teams in the WNBA. People laughed at Carolyn Peck when she said that the Indiana Fever were better without Caitlin Clark. Now, I don't believe that, but if Carolyn Peck said that again, she might say it in a different way. But people were alarmed that she would even make that statement. The reality is, the Indiana Fever, they have multiple players who can get things done. And Kelsey Mitchell is a flat-out beast. She's one of the best scorers in the league. So I'm not surprised that Indiana is still winning. Aisha Boston, they have Boston. I mean, all-star caliber player. So they have talent. Caitlin Clark puts them over the top, makes them championship caliber. But without her, they can still beat a lot of good teams. And I'm not surprised that they're winning. So good for them. I also saw an interesting little interview on NFL Network with Aaron Rodgers. And I loved what he said. Aaron Rodgers, I'm not deep in the woods on the internet and things that he says and dark retreats and his political views. I'm not that close to it. I know he's kind of different. I get it. And he didn't want to take the COVID test. He said that. But Terry Bradshaw, got at him a little bit. And I think Aaron Rodgers showed a lot in this interview, because as opposed to responding in a way that make people think that he had to defend himself, he didn't do that. He was very deferential to Terry Bradshaw. And he said, you know what? If Terry Bradshaw got an opportunity to know me, because he doesn't know me, he might have hear certain things about me. If he had an opportunity to get to know me, I think he would like me. I think I would like him. And we could talk football and break bread and so on and so forth. And I like that, because to me, that's the relationship that I think Aaron Rodgers is going to develop with Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin is not a my way or the highway type of guy. He doesn't appear to be that type of guy to me. He appears to be someone that says, how can we work together to get things done? And I'm excited about the Pittsburgh Steelers. I grew up a Steelers fan as a kid, with Mean Joe Green and all of their great players, Jack Ham, Greenwood, all those guys. But I like how they do business. I really do. I like how they do business. And 40-41 to me, when you take care of your body, like Aaron Rodgers does, he's not 41. Aaron Rodgers is probably about 35, 36 years old. He probably could play good football for 3 more seasons if he wanted to. So a lot of times when people look at his age, they're comparing him to themselves. He's not you. He's not me. This is a guy who is in top shape, who takes care of his body. Looks great. Why can't he play? Keith says, how do you think the Bears will do this year? Caleb's second year and Ben Johnson's first as a head coach. I think Caleb is going to do fine. I do. I think it's going to be good. I think he'll show improvement. Yeah, man, I'm excited. He did some things last year that were good, but he was not consistent, and he held the ball too long. And a lot of that, I do believe, was play calling. He had some bad habits going back to Oklahoma, pulling rabbits out of his where. And then he took that to USC, and he was miraculous more times than not. And he developed bad habits. And I think what Ben Johnson is going to do is say, listen, dude, you have all the ability in the world. You can't play this way. You got to play this way. The one thing about football, more than any other sports, fundamentals is how you become good. Don't try to do it yourself. Stick to the game plan and play fundamental football. That's how you win. It's all about winning. The great Bill Parcells said it first. You don't win football games, you lose them. And historically, if you watch the Bears, think about the Bears. The Bears, they've either never had a Pro Bowl quarterback or they've never had a quarterback throw for 4,000 yards. Maybe it's both. But think about this. In the history of the Chicago Bears, since we've been watching football, the best quarterback was Jim McMahon. Jim McMahon, if you look at those Bears team that won Super Bowls, he might have been the 7th or 8th best player on the team. And he's the best player that we can even think of playing quarterback. So, I'm rooting for Caleb. I didn't like how Caleb handled things emotionally when he was at USC all the time. He would get on these emotional trampolines where he would be up and then he'd be down. You gotta be consistent. The guy who I love to watch play football is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, literally, if you talk to people who know football, Joe Burrow is one of the best quarterbacks in the history of football. He's only been in the league, 4 years, 5 years? That dude does not change his emotions at all. And he always blames himself. Yeah, I had 43 touchdowns and 9 picks. I should have 55. That's his mentality. I love to play with that dude. That dude is lights out. So glad your dog's out of here. I don't get it, man. I don't understand it. I don't. Now, I mean, there's some interesting people who troll on the internet. They do various things. This is a diversion. I mean, my only thing that you have to do is treat people nice with respect. That's it. Give people respect and treat them nice. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. So, I also wanted to mention Juwan Jennings because the way that he's handling things, I think is the right way. He's taking a very mature approach to hopefully getting what he wants, which is more money and more security. But he came out and publicly said this week that, listen, I never said I wanted to be traded. It was reported that he wanted to be traded. But he said, yo, I never said that. I'm going to trust him. And I think the 49ers, like a lot of organizations, particularly in football, where you have a 53-man roster, it's never going to be about one guy. You got to show up and you got to play. And hopefully your representation can work with the establishment and reach a common goal. I'm hoping that happens for Jennings because he could get hurt. He could get hurt, which is why I'm in favor of football players getting paid, because your career could be over next play. NBA players, unless you're the last year, your contracts are guaranteed. NFL players they get guaranteed money now, signing bonuses, and more of their contracts are guaranteed. This is a guy who wants multiple years. He's in the last year of his contract. So I'm hoping that he doesn't get hurt. He goes out and has a phenomenal year. People say he didn't have 1,000 yards. What did he have, like 996? Jennings' deal should have been done by now. I totally agree with you. I totally agree. But, if this is what he has to do, I get it. I get it. It worked well for Brock Purdy. Some guys get their bag when they're supposed to get it. It's not a problem. If Brandon Ayuk had not kicked and stomped the way that he did, he doesn't get that contract. I don't think he does. And what happened to him? He got hurt. So, I mean, I like to get the business out of the way and get to what matters, which is football. You can go out there not worried about anything, go over the middle, go airborne, catch the ball. You're taken care of. It's a dangerous game. It is truly dangerous. It really is. So, I want to talk to you all too about cruises. Do we have any people listening right now who have gone on cruises? I've never been on a cruise before. Everybody's telling me how much fun it is. I know someone who's went on 27 cruises. Did you guys see that storm that cruise ship got into out of Jersey? Did you see that thing? It looked worse than any movie about a sea disaster that we've ever seen before. That was crazy. You get out there in the middle of some ocean, Mother Nature doesn't check with you to just say, well, we're going to have a storm in about 3 hours. No, we're going to do it right now. That was crazy. Give me your opinion on cruises. It's something I might want to do at some point in my life. But when I think about all the things that could go wrong on a cruise, I go, miss me on that. TG says, totally, Frank. With you on cruises, I pass on that. Yeah, man, I'm like, I don't know about all that. Jennings should be our Plexico Burris if our defense didn't blow leads in the Super Bowl. Yeah. You know what? As much as you scratch your head about Plaxico sometimes, about some of the things he's done, can't take that Super Bowl away from him. You can't. That guy will forever be etched in stone in New York Giants folklore. He will always be revered. Always. And Jennings had more than a moment in the Super Bowl. So should be interesting. What are you most excited about the NFL season? There's so many storylines. So many. I mean, during the pandemic, I got to the point where I literally was comfortable not watching sports. There was no sports to watch. And I found other things to do. But right now, I can't wait till football season starts. Can't wait because it's so interesting. There are so many different plot lines to cover. There's so many teams. There's 32 NFL teams. About half of them could actually make some noise. More than half. You can't say that about the NBA. You can't say that about Major League Baseball. You know, will Detroit still be good losing Ben Johnson? We assume they will, but we don't know. I mean, people are spraying Genius oil, rubbing Genius oil on Jaden Daniels. Is he that good? He had a great year as a rookie. Is he that good? I don't know. I know he's good. I trust Jalen Hurts more than I trust him. I do. Jalen Hurts has won at every level. So, and I'm a Dak Prescott guy. Dak doesn't have any excuses when it comes to offense. None. Zero. He got 2 number 1 receivers. And he got a damn good tight end also. The Dallas run game, I don't know. I have to see. But they're looking good at wide receiver and tight end. You know, people act like Dak's not a good player. I want to see Dak Prescott have a fantastic year. And with regards to the 49ers, I don't think they're in a tough division. Still, their division is more competitive, but that doesn't mean that their division is really, really good. I still think it's the Rams and the 49ers in no particular order. What's interesting to me about the 49ers is the fact that Shanahan said it, they're going to have a lot of guys on defense who are young, a lot of rookies, a lot of guys out there. So this is a year in which the expectation to win is still there, but you got a lot of players who are developing in their roles, who are young. I want to see if Ricky Pearsall can take that big leap and become a guy at wide receiver. If he becomes a guy, that's going to help the 49ers out a lot, because we have no trepidation about George Kittle. None. If George Kittle doesn't go out and have another 1,000-yard season, I would be surprised. Based on how hard he plays and how good he is, I think he's going to be fine. Christian McCaffrey, if he's healthy, he's a top 5 running back in the NFL. So they got players. Defense was a serious problem for the 49ers last year. A serious problem. And they got some new guys on that unit. Robert Saleh definitely helps a lot. But he's not playing. He's coaching. So those guys got to show up. I'm excited to see what they do. We don't have any reason to think that this Jonathan Kuminga issue novella is going to be resolved this week. Maybe it will be, but why would it? Why would it be resolved this week? Most NBA teams now are on vacation. The summer league's done. Rookies are going home to chill with their parents, their loved ones for a little while. And, they'll be back in the next couple of weeks or so. So I would be surprised if Jonathan Kuminga is re-signed by the Warriors to a contract that he likes, or he's traded. I would like for it to get done, but I don't have any confidence that it will get done. So there we are. All right. Before I go, I want to talk about 2 movies. I saw a movie called Eddington, starring Joaquin Phoenix and Pedro Pascal was in another movie besides Fantastic Four and the Materialist. This dude had 4 movies this year, Pedro Pascal. And Emma Stone was in this movie also, and Austin, I can't think of Austin, the guy who played Elvis Presley, Austin. Eddington. Joaquin Phoenix needed this movie because he's one of the truly brilliant actors of our time. And Joker 2 was one of the worst movies I've seen in a long time. And Eddington is kind of an independent joint. And basically what the movie is about is this. It shows you how small state, small town USA can operate in its own world because the rest of the United States is really not watching. So the movie is about how small town America can run amok and all of these weird things can happen. And it does happen because nobody really is paying attention. So all of these really interesting incestuous type relationships are at play. Chaos ensues. I don't want to give anything away. Trust me. Eddington is a pretty good movie. Now, if you don't go see it and you watch it on one of your cable outlets, that's fine. But I enjoyed it. It was chaotic. I mean, the plot was not all the way finished, which is what one of the experts has said. I was watching a video. I don't remember the guy's name, but he said, "What's wrong with movies right now?" He said, "Well, the plots are not finished. The scripts are not finished," is what he said. And I would say this script could have been better, but the acting was so good and so extreme to the point where it was entertaining. So Eddington is something that I think you might want to check out. If you don't watch it in the movies and you see it, watch it on one of the apps, the distributors, then that's fine too. The other thing is, last night at about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I was doing some food prep because I made some gumbo. I watched Heads of State on Amazon Prime with John Cena and Idris Elba. And it was good. It was really, really good. John Cena has real comedic timing. He really does. And Idris Elba is a phenomenal actor. Going back to The Wire, when he got his start on American television. But check that movie out, Heads of State on Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, I think you need to check that out. It's pretty good. All right. With that said, hopefully you've hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you like what you hear. My name is Frank Red. I'm going to break down right now, and I look forward to talking to you the next time. Make sure you hit the notification button so you'll know when I am on next. All right, let me do my thing, get out of here. Success and getting paid is a manifestation of the whole process. If you're an individual, don't do things to help other people make their lives better. As far as I'm concerned, you haven't done nothing. All right, good night, everybody. Peace.